And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ Podcast. We are on episode 22. It is the day after Christmas as we record this. I did the intro properly that time.
Well,
Sort of.
You did put the "and" before the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as opposed to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and welcome.
All right, are we just like nitpicking my intros now? You've infused this intro.
Everybody, stop the recording. We've got to record it a third time.
It used to be such a pleasant experience for me doing these intros. Now it's full of anxiety.
Well, you've had your practice nice time without me nitpicking, and now I'm going to be on your back like a randy koala.
Oh, that was an interesting visual.
I was trying to think of a reason why a koala would be hugging someone.
Oh God. Yeah, so it is Boxing Day as we record this, a holiday we don't have in the U.S.
It is.
But, yeah.
It's poor people Christmas.
Yeah,
Yay!
for the U.S. listeners who don't know what Boxing Day is, it comes out of the 1800s in the British Empire, where it was fashionable to have live-in servants, and so like maid, butler, cook, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and
you can find out all about it in the last podcast.
Oh, did we talk about it in the last one?
Yes, you went into great detail.
Oh, okay. Well, here I am repeating myself. Anyway, yeah, so not Christmas themed. This is the podcast that will go out after New Year's, so kind of looking on to 2021.
Yep. Wait, is it after New Year's?
I think
it will
so.
be after New Year's.
It will be, yeah. So, what better way to start the new year than with some pretty awful news? The Cyberpunk, the game that I was lauding as such a great game, at least on the PC, albeit with some significant glitchiness. On consoles, especially older consoles, it was a bit unplayable. I was just told by a friend this morning that they're being sued, and looking it up, they're being sued by their investors because their stock dipped after the launch, because the launch was handled so poorly on the consoles. I thought it was going to be like somebody who purchased the game suing them. No, it's their investors suing them because of the poor launch reception, which I don't know. I feel like all of this is a little bit unfair to CD Projekt Red, because they are a rarity in the game industry in that they seem to be a pretty good company. They put out generally like products that seem like they have a lot of passion in them. The writing is excellent. The graphics are usually top-notch. If there is some glitchiness, it's normally not intrusive to the story. And they tend to be very responsive to like fan feedback. Even during this whole thing, like they didn't hesitate to go like, okay, anyone who wants a refund, doesn't matter how long you've played the game, we'll give you a full refund, but we're asking you to stick with us. We're patching it as quickly as possible. They're generally a very good company, which is so rare, especially in an industry dominated by things like Ubisoft and EA. So it kind of makes me sad to see
Ubisoft.
With their 5-factor authentication.
Actually, we have to rescind that statement now.
Oh, why? What happened?
Because it no longer boots up Ubisoft Connect every time you play the game. In fact, I don't think it even makes you hit yes once before hitting the game.
Oh. Maybe they got enough negative feedback on that they...
Maybe. They heard our cries of dismay.
Maybe Ubisoft is one of our listeners.
Or maybe someone just hacked my account or something, and I don't know.
Another possibility. Yeah, so that's a bit of sad news. Although something else, so I don't want to dwell on that too long, because it is just genuinely depressing to me that good company like that is getting taken down. Well, hopefully they won't go down altogether. The game is good, so I think once it's patched, like it's going to do quite well in terms of sales and revenue.
Yeah, It's certainly no Fallout 76.
Yeah, no, that was an unmitigated disaster.
Like, that deserved lawsuits, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But this seems like... I mean, for a start, it's not exactly multiplayer, is it?
No, it's a single player RPG, first person shooter.
Yeah. So it's a story.
Yeah.
Essentially what people... That's only... If the graphics don't always, like, line up perfectly, or even if you have to repeat a part of it, you can't be too mad at it. It's not like you're only losing a set amount of progress, and you can fly back there pretty darn quickly, I imagine, because you'll just not be admiring all the beautiful graphics the second time around.
Yeah, you're just gonna be, and that has happened to me once while playing the game. I had a quest marker bug out, and I just had to load a previous save from like 5 minutes ago, and so I already knew what I was doing after that, so I was able to just repeat that very quickly, and then it was fine. So it's not without its issues, but as I've said before, I found it endearing in the same way that I found Skyrim or Oblivion endearing. So hopefully their stock bounces back. They don't get hit too hard by the lawsuit, and the game ends up being functional on consoles too, so other people can enjoy it the way I have been. Moving completely away from that, these are very negative topics this morning. We were talking, well, you were talking to me earlier in the week about a Netflix series that you can't get over in the UK, despite it being mostly...
Get ready for more Netflix bashing. And of course, with every Netflix bash, you have to... It's a scales thing, alright? With every time that one company is attacked, in this case, Amazon becomes the shining light. Today's example. Netflix. I mean, to be fair, Amazon doesn't do it any better. They do the exact same thing. But
yeah,
Netflix, they have a horrible habit of taking an English film or a really good TV series and making it available in America, but not in England. And yes, the one that irked me so much earlier this week was the Lord of the Rings trilogy is available in America but not here. Yeah. So now I have to either shill out about £18 for all three, like a copy of all three films, and that's like digital HD.
Yeah,
it's £18, which is pretty darn expensive for any kind of... Anyway.
It's
or I have to just, hound Kaiser until he lets me watch it for free. So
just
those are my options.
You're right in saying though that it isn't just a purely a Netflix thing, because region locking is something that happens with all kinds of streaming sites. Even YouTube does it. They region lock certain videos based on regional laws. Honestly, the people you should be blaming is the BBC, because they're the ones who restrict English TV shows and movies from being broadcast abroad, because they want you to pay for your TV license and see the movies and TV shows on their services, or buy the physical copies and then they get the revenue for it. So blame.
Yeah. What are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say they definitely have a portion of the blame.
Yeah, from what I read up, it was basically just Netflix saw that there were not as the number of people in England is obviously not nearly as much as in America. They just couldn't be bothered to buy the licenses for it.
Yeah,
which is a shame. But hey, maybe when we've left the EU pretty soon.
Well, I mean, you're taking the BBC change with you, so that's not really gonna change much. Region locks are an interesting thing, because I used to notice when I was traveling for work, like my phone is registered to the US. So if I was just on my mobile data and I'd be like watching a video or say I was watching Netflix or Amazon on my phone, But then I get to a hotel and I log into the Wi-Fi at the hotel, and suddenly whatever I was watching is no longer available. But if I go off the Wi-Fi and I'm just on like my network again, then I
Hmm.
can still watch it. This happened to me most noticeably when I was in Germany for work, because there's apparently a lot of stuff on American Amazon and Netflix that is not available in Germany. I was
All right.
so like I can't remember what series I was watching at the time, but it just I got to Germany, went on, so I have unlimited data, so I just watched it on data while I was there
Right.
if I wanted to
Yeah.
watch those particular things.
I imagine quite a few World War Two themed films are probably banned in Germany.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean, considering like doing the Nazi salute in Germany is considered illegal.
yeah. So is like any display of the I'm not sure
The
I even want to say
swastika.
that word out loud because YouTube will get angry. But no,
Oh,
any display of like the swastika flag is
yeah.
also banned over there, I think. Um, like I remember hearing when like I think it was one of the Call of Duty World War II games when came out over in Germany, they had to change the symbol, like all the armbands had to be either removed or blurred or patched out or something. So
Right. I mean, I feel like you can cover up, you know, the Nazis. I mean, you know,
that's another sort of like weird region lock sort of thing. That
hmm.
it's not you're locking the media, but you're changing the media for a region. Like Rainbow
I
Six
wonder what.
Siege. Sorry,
I was just gonna say, I wonder where they stand on Wolfenstein.
I imagine they probably have to severely edit the
Because that's like ridiculing the Nazis.
it is, but they just I guess they I don't know. I think the
I just don't
laws
want
are
any
just
mention of
pretty
it.
much you can't display it at all. It doesn't matter if you're
Yeah.
making fun of them or praising them. You just can't talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying about.
I was saying other weird region locks like these aren't really region locks. You can still get the media, but it's heavily modified. So like Rainbow
Hmm.
Six Siege in China, like any sort of occult stuff is gone. Any sort of like gambling paraphernalia is gone from levels. Like if there's stuff like
That
that
was a
scattered around, it's gone.
cult. I remember there being a cult stuff.
I think there was like a Halloween level, and they had to heavily modify it when they released it in China.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, they do a Halloween thing every year, and but
Yeah,
like that's it's not really. It wasn't really like occult stuff so much as like you know an electric chair kind of thing.
yeah. I don't know why exactly. I think I assume it's a cultural thing, but China's very sensitive about any sort of occult thing, like any references to zombies or stuff like that.
Oh wow, that's okay.
Yeah, I remember reading years ago that when WoW finally released in China, they had to make some serious modifications to it to remove a lot of gore and a lot of references to occult things.
But then like Japan has like all the onis and the demon spirits and things, and they're like
Oh yeah, well Japan doesn't give
just
a
over the
fuck.
pond.
But Japan has other weird things. Like Japan is perfectly okay with all that stuff, but um, like violence tends to be more heavily censored, and also all. God, this is already. I got to make sure I mark this for explicit. All pornography in Japan is blurred. Like, it's you're not allowed to have uncensored pornography in Japan.
Yeah, I mean the whole pixelated joke.
Yeah.
Um, but
Um,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I just
okay.
every the I guess the point the point I'm trying to get here is aside from like region locks are a part of this, and mostly that has to do with copyright and purchasing the rights, but there's also like these soft region locks where because of a country or culture's feeling, or like a government's what a government does and doesn't want their people to see, you
Hmm.
get these other like soft region locks where they'll modify or heavily restrict content based on that, like
So
their sensibilities.
what I essentially need to do is get some like for the thumbnail some pixelated Nazi porn with the logos turned into like bacon sandwiches or something.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That.
And then I could just say suitable for all countries along the top.
Oh my God. I want to see that thumbnail so badly, but I also don't want my YouTube channel banned.
But if the SEO, like, you know, when you put in something a little bit dicey, and then everyone's like, ooh, something dicey's happening in this one, I'd better click on.
How spicy. Yeah, it's like one of those, the clickbait thumbnails.
Look at them curves on Hitler.
Oh my God.
Sorry for anyone offended out there.
Oh. So
yes, back to the matter at hand.
Yeah. What were we? How we started with we started with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think we've kind of exhausted that.
The reason I was looking at Lord of the Rings, was, I mean, there's a whole long story, and I think I told you yesterday. But I was watching the scene. Wait, you have seen Lord of the Rings, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen all three of them. I actually in an earlier podcast I talked about them because I had recently bought the Blu-rays when they were on sale on Amazon, and I watched all of them, like in a painful marathon run.
Oh damn!
Because I watched the extended editions for all of them, so they're all like 3 hours long.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. No, I was watching the fight between, I can never remember their names. It's not Ratbag, because Ratbag's the one from Shadow of Mordor. The two guys in the Orc and the Uruk in the Cirith Ungol, I think it is. Where they're like fighting over the belongings they took off of Frodo, and Frodo's like still got Shelob's web kind of covering him. And then they like start arguing. One pushes the other down through the tower, and there's a massive fight between the Orcs and the Uruk.
Wait, what?
That scum knifed me, and they just start punching each other.
Which movie is that in?
Okay, so it's like I said, it's just after Shelob, so it would be Merry and Pippin. So rewinding, not Merry and Pippin. Frodo and Sam. Before going past Shelob, they went past the Minas Morgul, which is where the Witch King lives. I think it's during the Siege of Osgiliath, I think. So it's just after that. So after the fight in Minas Tirith, I think.
All of these names are just gibberish to me. I've read the books, I've seen the movies. I can never keep these names straight.
You know the place where the guy gets set on fire and runs off the end of the city.
Oh, okay. So it's the third movie then.
I thought that was the.
No. That happens in the third movie.
Yeah, you're right. Because the Two Towers is.
Yeah, the second movie is where they're like besieged in that cliffside city.
But they defeat Sauron and his army in the Two Towers, don't they?
They defeat an army that is attacking, but it's a different one. It's like the horse people have that mountainside like citadel that they hide in, and Gandalf. What?
I was gonna say, it's the Rise of the Ents in the third film. Then?
No, it's in the second film.
Anyway, it's either the second or the third film. It's very funny scene.
The Ents definitely happens in the second film, because I remember near the beginning of the third film, they reunite with Merry and Pippin, and the Ents are walking around, and
But the Uruk-hai are obviously Saruman's troops. He made them.
Yeah.
And
I'll be perfectly honest. I couldn't tell the difference between the two of them.
Basically, Uruk-hai are just bigger.
Yeah,
and they've got the white hand of Sauron like printed on their face in chalk.
Yeah, I think watching through this second, because when I originally saw the movies, because I never read the books as a kid, when I originally saw the movies, I I was so lost for most of it. I got the general concept. Okay, ring bad, Saruman bad. There's a bunch of like orc things that came out of the ground or somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, get the
They
ring in
were
the fire.
a lot more authentic and creepy than I remember them being. Bear in mind, I haven't seen any of the films in about 6 or 7 years, I guess.
Hmm.
And so I'm like super ready to watch them again. But yeah, the orcs, they are super creepy, and oh my god, they did such a good job with them, despite it being what 2003 that they made the last film or something.
Yeah, it was early 2000s because I was very young when I saw him. Well, not very young. I was a teenager, but yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, yeah. I mean, that's kind of maybe that should have been more in the media segment.
Yeah,
But no, what's we done with that? You fool of a took.
Oh my god, there were some good. The Ent part was actually one of my favorite parts in all three movies. Like where they come charging out of the forest, they get pissed because of all the trees being like destroyed, and then they just like
they
charge
break the
down. Yeah, that was an awesome scene. I love that whole bit. I kind of want to watch that whole bit again, like just that bit.
Yeah.
Oh, and now I can because it's on Netflix.
Fuck off. Emphasis on the I can.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Okay. So just to kind
Whose
of,
turn is it for movie next? By the way,
is it my turn? I thought it was yours.
I don't know. I was asking whose turn is it.
Oh, sorry. So Alicia did the last one. We watched Saint Trinian's,
Oh,
which
yes,
we talked about on the last
that was
podcast.
me.
And I think you were saying you may have
Well,
wanted
not
to
the
pick
last
Scarface.
podcast before that. And yes, I do want to watch Scarface.
Oh yeah.
But there's also Riddick I want to make you watch, so I might delay Scarface.
I think if you don't choose it, I will for my choice, just because
Okay.
I really want to see it.
I feel like I'm shortchanging you. Maybe we should do it as just a bonus one because we both really want to see it.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe next week we're gonna have a lot of films to talk about.
It's possible. I mean, I'm on vacation next week, so like I said earlier, I can have some time.
Yeah, you got all your work out of the way. Yeah, sorry, was there a topic or theme you wanted to pull back to?
No, I mean, we talked about the two topics that I had there, so I was actually thinking that for, like, the last little bit here, what was it? Damn it, I completely lost what I wanted to talk about.
Sorry.
It's fine. I do have something I want to rant about, because I just went through the process of buying Christmas gifts for people on Steam.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for that game. I believe I said.
Yes. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
But a lot of, obviously people aren't seeing each other so much this year, so buying physical gifts wasn't really an option for a lot of friends and family. So I was looking to do digital gifts. My parents, I got them physical gifts because I was going to see them. But with a lot of other people, I was going to buy gifts on Steam. So I had a few presents to buy. And Steam does this what I did was I wrote out the people I needed to get them for. I wrote out a list of I was just noting down games and things digitally that I wanted to get for them. And then I just made like a yes, no, have I purchased it? Yes, no. And then I had a price column so I could keep track of how much I was spending. Very simple Excel sheet. So I made that up. I've got my list ready. I go over to Steam and I start making the purchases. I buy 2 games, and apparently I made them too fast for Steam's comfort, because then I get an error message that says, you've been making purchases too rapidly. Please wait a while and try again. And that message stayed there for like an hour and a half. I had to I tried everything. I tried emptying the cart, putting it back in, and sending it again. I tried closing Steam down and opening it back up. No, they just don't want you to make purchases too quickly for some reason. So, and I sent them a ticket that was like, hey, I'm buying Christmas presents. I'm going to be making these purchases rapidly. Can you please fuck off? And I didn't say it in those words. I tried to be more professional.
You're cordial. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And it doesn't let you say you're having a general problem with purchasing. You have to say specifically what you were trying to purchase. So I did. Now, eventually, I was able to purchase the thing and send it. But so by the time they responded to me, that had already happened. And so they're like, oh, we see you purchased the game. Are you done? And I'm like, no, I'm not fucking done. Because this error message happened 3 more times during the day. So, like, when I finally cleared, I was able to buy 3 more games, error message. I had to wait another hour and a half, 3 more games, error message. And it was infuriating because it was a task that should have taken me like a half hour at most. And it ended up taking the entire day to go through and do this. And Steam has had a long history with me and just being really, really just shitty around like gift giving. Because, yeah, get your thoughts out on that before I rant about the other thing they did a few years ago that pissed me off.
Okay, so this is probably going to link to what you were about to say. Steam used to be really good, and over the years I feel like they haven't done anything to improve it, and in fact they've actually been getting slowly worse over the years.
Yes.
Now, granted, the reasoning they give is because they don't want people like setting up accounts and like trading stuff, but basically not using it as a Steam account, using it as some kind of trading account. And alright, granted, that's kind of annoying, but the methods that they've used to stop that happening directly affects everybody else. So, like, I can't buy. There's a lot of games that I can't gift to people now in different countries because of the change in pricing between the countries.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think they must have softened that rule, because honestly I'm surprised that you were even able to send me a game.
I did get blocked. I did get blocked with... I had another game that I was trying to get for somebody outside the US, and I did get region blocked because it said that the price difference was something, and it gave me an error message. I had to find something else to get them.
Yeah, and that's like just so annoying when you can't even buy a goddamn present store online. The other one was that... Oh, buggery, what was it? No, I've lost it. You go with yours.
So the other thing they did a few years back that really annoyed me, what I used to do is I knew that at the end of the year I had a lot of people that... I have a lot of friends that play video games, and so a video game on Steam is probably a really good thing to give them as a Christmas gift. So throughout the year, if I'd see like a good deal on a game that I'm like, oh, I bet this person would like, or I bet it'd be good for someone, but I'm not sure who yet, I'd buy the game, and you used to be able to put it in your inventory in your Steam account. And then when it came time, you would be like, okay, I've got my Christmas list. Oh, I have these games. Oh, let me give X, Y, and Z this gift and this gift and this gift. And I can just kind of assign
You gave me Pokemon?
Yeah. Right. I can just give them the gift as it gets closer to Christmas, or schedule it to go out.
Yeah.
Steam took away the ability to put games in your inventory. There's still a way to do it, but it's very tricky now. You have to make an alternate Steam account, buy the game, give it to that account, and then decline the gift, and then it'll go back in your inventory. So it's convoluted, and it's not worth the time, honestly. You have to now, if you want to give a game as a gift, you have to buy it, and when you buy it, you have to specifically choose the person and schedule the date it's going to go to them on. So that already was really annoying. I actually made a post on Steam's forums complaining about this, and it got a ton of traction. There was a bunch of people responding and agreeing, saying that they brought up that they did it to get rid of the behavior you were talking about, where people would just set up an account and stockpile games when they were on sale and then sell them when they weren't on sale, like trade them with people for stuff. Yeah. Which I'm like, okay, fine. Why are you punishing everyone for them? Like, just either, if you really don't like it, ban the account, or more reasonably, take away that account's ability to store games. Problem solved, right? But instead they decided to punish everyone. And anyway, the forum got a lot of traction, there was a lot of people responding, and a Steam moderator locked it. So it was just, they not only have they been making the service slightly shittier over the years, but the few times I've tried to point it out on their forums and discuss it with people, they've just locked the forum and won't let you post anymore. So that tells me that they know they're doing something pretty shitty, but they just don't want to admit it.
I think there was a story I told you a while back about one of the Yogscast members who, called Spiffing Brit, who exploited Steam by there was an event on where whenever you bought a game or something, it gives you a certain amount of points.
Yeah.
And then if you try and send that game to someone and they decline it, the game is refunded. Like, all the money goes back to the person who bought it, but the person keeps the points.
Oh.
So that was on one of their like summer sale events, like a year and a half ago. And so he kept doing this, and he got like so many points, which basically gave you. It's basically making money for nothing. But it's making Steam money for nothing. And eventually, he the way he got caught. Well, I mean, for a start, he made a video of it. He wasn't like doing this purely out of like greed or anything. He didn't need the money.
It's not like it was a clandestine sort of thing.
No, he made a YouTube video of it. He showed the whole world, and I guess a lot of people started doing it. But the people that caught him were his PayPal account, right? Got in contact with Steam, and they were like, he's doing this, alright? And then PayPal, I think, closed his account, right?
Yeah.
And Steam just, like, soft closed his Steam account. So he's still got a Steam account that works and everything. It was just, like, temporarily stopped from doing anything like this. But PayPal full on, like, cut his account.
Okay. This is something that really, really pisses me off. Like, I'm gonna go on a mild rant, and we're over 30 minutes, so I will
we'll
try.
Make the last thing. Go on.
I will try to keep this as the last topic, but that is something that really pisses me off when like banking services or payment services decide to like close people's accounts for stuff that isn't illegal. Like. There's nothing illegal about what he was doing. PayPal just decided that arbitrarily we don't like this, so it's gone. It's something that you see with like people getting like canceled and like deplatformed and stuff. You have this happening with like people who maybe have some spicy opinions, but they haven't done anything unlawful, and banks are closing their accounts. It's like that to me is disgusting behavior on the part of these like payment services and banks. It's like this is going back to my rant about companies like trying to moralize and tell people things, and it's like, no, like if you sell socks, shut the fuck up and sell me socks. Like if you're a banking service and all you're supposed to do is store my money and get it to me when I need it and give me checks, that's all you should be doing. I don't need you to like start to look into my personal life.
Yeah.
It's like just so when I hear that PayPal did that thing, he didn't do anything illegal. He did something that was questionable in terms of Steam's policies.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess they only like got notified of it because like if you keep purchasing something and then it keeps being refunded, that does look a little bit dodgy on your bank account. But then that's kind of where their attention should have stopped. Yeah. I guess.
They should have called him and seen, hey, are these fraudulent? And he would have said no, and they would have said okay. That's what should have happened. But PayPal decided to just...
Also, I'm pretty sure it was PayPal. It was an online banking service. I think it was PayPal.
Yeah, sorry PayPal, sorry to PayPal if it actually wasn't PayPal. And if it was some other purchasing thing like, I don't know, Venmo or something like that.
But it probably was.
PayPal's the most ubiquitous one out there. So
yeah, that's why I kind of...
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway,
yeah, but it was definitely Steam. So fuck you, Steam.
But yeah, I like what you said earlier. That does seem to be the case with Steam. That they were a great service for purchasing and tracking and playing games on the PC, and they have been doing everything in their power to progressively make their service worse. I don't know. Like, I guess they just, because they had a monopoly on the market. I think that's why I think Epic
Yeah, they
showing
do have
up.
a monopoly.
Yeah, well, Epic showing up and being an alternative game purchasing platform, I think is going to be a positive thing for Steam, because they'll need to get off their lazy asses and actually make some positive changes.
And as terrible as I think a lot of the games on Epic Game Store are, you cannot deny the validity of a free game every week. Like, that's just crazy. Like, and these are not all low end games. Last week it was Alien Isolation?
Yeah. I mean, that game's a few years old now, but it was...
It's a AAA title, and a really good one at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, we've already gone over the time.
We have gone over. So, thank you everyone for listening. This is the end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast. You will hear us momentarily for segment 2, our media segment. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are now on segment 2, our media segment. And because it was Christmas this week, and I spent a good chunk of it away from home, we didn't watch a movie for movie night. Luckily,
we did not, alas.
Luckily, I did watch a few shows though with my parents when I was home for Christmas, and you've been playing quite a few games that you got in a charity bundle that you got.
Yeah, I've been trying out a whole bunch of different genres.
All right. Well, before we jump into the games, I do quickly want
to... Oh, ow, I just burnt myself. Sorry.
What did you just do?
I don't know, I just kind of put my hand on my coffee cup and I forgot it was boiling hot.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
Now, so the show that I finally finished, because I had started this months and months ago, I think last year even, was a show called Jack Ryan.
Oh.
The Amazon.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Is there, like, books about that?
There are books, yeah. It's a Tom Clancy series.
Yeah, I think my granddad used to read them.
Yeah. They seem like they're pretty good. I've never read the books, but the Amazon did a series, started in 2018. A friend of mine turned me on to the series, said it was great. Watched it. The first season, I just couldn't stop watching. Second season had like a slow episode, and something else came up. I think I was traveling for work at the time, and I just didn't pick the show back up again when I got back.
Right.
So anyway, I got my parents into it over Thanksgiving. They have been plowing through the series, and they stopped at the same episode I stopped at in season 2. So when I went home, we decided to watch it, and we watched the entire rest of the series. We watched like 6 episodes yesterday over Christmas.
Shit.
But the series follows the titular character, Jack Ryan, who is an analyst for the CIA, and I think he's like either a former Marine or a former some former Army soldier of some description. I can't actually remember what he was supposed to be in the show. I want to say he was a Marine, but I'm not positive. Anyway, he retires from that job to take this job as an analyst for the CIA. He uncovers in the first season this kind of larger plot and terrorist network. Season 2 focuses around regimes in South America, but the show's just very, very well done. They go to like some cool locations. Like they do a very good job of like writing good characters and having them be interesting. So it's free on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime. Highly recommend it. Just an excellent watch. It doesn't make some of the common mistakes with TV shows, and that's they have kind of an overarching plot, but they don't let that overarching plot dominate the whole season. They write the characters both good and bad interestingly, and I don't know, they keep the action going, but it's not completely overwhelming. Like there's a bit of intrigue and like interpersonal drama, as well as some big explosions and action scenes and shootouts and stuff. It's just altogether just a very, very well done series.
Yeah, I don't really know how to go with that.
I know when we actually say something good about a game, movie, or TV show, we're just like, oh well, where do we go from here?
Yeah. I feel like I've got to be because normally I do that. Well, but also they have these good aspects. But now I feel like I got to come up with a negative thing.
We are much better at complaining about things.
I'm English, of course I can. I have heard it is kind of not very intellectually. It's a lot of shooty bang bang, and not much intrigue.
Yeah, that's definitely. It's definitely at its core an action series, but there is a level of intrigue, and if you're paying attention, you can see certain plot points coming. I remember I was watching it with my dad last night after my mother had gone to bed, and there was like it got to the end. It was the end of like the last episode in the second season, and there was a hint that had been dropped earlier in the series, and then he sees like this scene open up, and he sees like the Jack Ryan talking to this guy, and he just shouts out like, "Oh, this!" I don't want to say it because it would spoil the season, but there were several moments like that where they drop hints, and you can kind of see some plot points coming. So, yes, at its core, it's not meant to be an intellectual and intrigue kind of series, but there are elements of that.
Okay.
It's primarily action, but there are elements of that with enough to keep you engaged mentally, as well as just look at all the pretty explosions.
Yeah. And where did you watch it on?
It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon original, I believe.
Another +1 to Amazon. I see.
Amazon's winning this round.
Indeed. Yeah. Well.
I'm sure they'll have their turn on the hobbling wheel in a few weeks.
Yes, well, they started on the hobbling wheel, so I feel like it's only fair. Sorry, stretching. Really unprofessional. So that's what you've been doing over Christmas. I have been, as was announced initially, I've been playing through a whole bunch of weird and wacky games from the charity bundle set. And some really kind of different. How can I describe? So, like, I'm playing Rise of Industry, which actually you said you quite like the sound of it. It's a lot like Factorio. If you, instead of having like a barren alien wasteland you start with, it's a, it's North Yorkshire. There's a few nice little rivers. There's several like towns already set out around the map, and you bid for the right to build around those towns. And then there's a couple of other companies as well who get the other towns, and you through factories that kind of gather raw resources like wood cutting and places that pull water up. You then combine those ingredients to make products which you sell to the local villages or export to the far-reaching villages if they need it. And you grow your business empire until you have enough to like start bidding on particular business contracts or buying out the rights to another village, or even buying the stock of your rival companies so that eventually you can like consume their company.
Yeah, and this
Uh,
all does sound like something that I'd very much enjoy. Once I got into it, I'm a huge fan of those like needlessly complex kind of the ones that grow in complexity. That was the thing that I loved about Factorio. Was you started off with a pickaxe and a gun, and that was it, and you grew it into this massive, sprawling industrial wasteland.
I'm sure there is a mod where you can like arm the villagers of Yorkshire with like las cannons and march into other people's territory, but that's not in the base game.
To be fair,
Um,
Factorio isn't supposed to be a game where you're doing that. It just ends up that way sometimes when we play.
yeah, it's a time pressure. I mean, the aliens are the equivalent of fellow business rivals.
Hmm.
Um,
And
but
then
yeah,
that,
so sorry.
no, I was just going to say in that regard, this game adds an extra layer of complexity on top of because in Factorio you couldn't buy out the alien stock. You kind of had to
Exactly.
blow them up.
I'm just picturing now like a Zergling with like the little nerdy glasses and a checkboard.
Oh my
Um,
god.
Yeah, so I played it so much. I played it for like I played it once, right? I played it for one day, but in that one day I played it for 17 hours. So I played through until completion. That was on normal difficulty.
Hmm.
There are high levels of difficulty. Um, so I'll probably return to it at some point. But yeah, so that was one of the games. A completely different angle. I was playing a game called Away, Journey to the Unexpected, which you have played the demo previously, so I'll let you start.
Well, I should clarify. I haven't played the demo.
Oh, you've got
So
the demo.
so what I do for the play per Scott was saying that we should do this more often. Plug the YouTube channel. So that this
Yes.
podcast goes up on the YouTube channel that I've had for quite a few years, and previously I had just uploaded things to it like what is it, like back when we played PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I would upload stuff to that all the time. This was like 2017. But then I kind of stopped using the channel for a while, and it seemed like a good place to start hosting the podcast. So on Tuesdays now, I release this little mini series I've been doing where I try out game demos, and basically it's just like a first impression thing. I'll play the game demo for like a half hour to an hour, edit down the video, and then just kind of give some final thoughts at the end of it. I downloaded the demo for this game because I wanted to. It was an option. I ended up going with something else for that week that I had downloaded this.
Right.
So I'd never actually ended up playing it.
Well, I would say, I mean, maybe you're going to end up doing one after this. It feels like a really well-made college project. Okay, so the visuals are very nice, I will say. Like the way that because all the characters in the game are like 2D cutouts that are always facing you. Including like enemies that are charging towards you, bosses, all that kind of stuff.
But the environments are 3D, right?
Exactly. The maps are a very nice art style, and it's kind of a very basic like a Zelda dungeon crawling. You have 3 hearts, so the equivalent of 6 lives, and you go in and you whack people with sticks when they get too close to you. You collect 3 parts, which allows you to progress to the next area where you fight a big boss, and then you go into a different area. So
Yeah.
the idea that the gameplay is quite generic, but the visuals are very nice. It has a thing where you collect people along your journey. So the first one is like an old man that you find, and you, I guess, help him a little bit, or he just joins you anyway. And he's like, if you hit 2 on the keypad, then you switch to playing as him. But he counts as like a power up, so he doesn't have any health bar or anything. But he can like summon fireballs. So rather than just whacking stuff with a stick, you can fire fireballs until he runs out of fireballs. Then you can't use them again. Also, he's an old man with like these cracked glasses. So when you switch to his perspective, he's like a big crack on the screen the whole time. Kind of interesting.
So it's got some artsy bits to it.
Yeah, it's very artsy. That's why I was like, is this a kind of a school project? And I think I remember the music in it was really good as well. I think. Yeah, very pretty game. Hack and slash. You don't need much thinking power. Although one of the people you can get to follow you is like this robot, and he's like, "Prove you're a robot. Do this incredibly difficult math sum." And it gave me like 3 options, and I wasn't properly reading the question. So it was like some crazy number. And it was like a 7-digit number. And I just happened to RNG guess the right one. And I got this like insanely powerful mega robot as a follower.
Oh my god.
So I got to the end, because there's only 3 acts in the game. So I got to the 3rd act, and it was like, aha! You've made it to the final boss's room, but you can only go in when you've had at least 10 followers. So we're going to send you back in time to the beginning of the game, and we're going to keep doing that until you get 10 followers. And that's the point where I kind of dropped it. Cause
you didn't want to play through the whole game again?
Yeah, basically. Like, I enjoyed it, and I like the art style, but whacking stuff with a stick repeatedly does get a bit old.
Yeah.
It's very anime.
I mean,
but yeah,
just looking at some of the screenshots, it seems very, not just anime, but animated in general. Like, as in, there's a lot of color and vibrancy to everything around you.
Yes, it's definitely something that, like, a kid would freaking love this game. It's got replayability, it's got a lot of fun characters, and you know, it's not at all gory or anything like that. 3-year-old player, it would be very good because it's quite difficult, but.
Well, you never know. I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking, like, back... going back and trying to play, like, some of the old games I used to play on the NES, or the N64 even. Just like, holy shit, how did I beat this as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, like, the Crash Bandicoot games, I'm thinking about playing again this week, maybe. Yeah, the original Crash Bandicoot game was super difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, what games that Mario 64, that's one, like, ridiculously difficult. And thinking back, the N64 controller, that thing was just this weird mutant abomination in terms of shape, but I don't know, it had such a unique look to it. I just really, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, again, it may be nostalgia, which I think is a bingo point, but I just really, I did like it.
That's a bingo point.
There was, so back in now that I'm doing it, the other game is like the original Mario games for the NES. Like, they're now available on the Switch. You can play them for free, and I was playing through them again, and I was having trouble beating like the first few levels. Like, I beat them, but I kept like missing platforms, or I'd fuck up and jump in between 2 enemies and get killed. Like,
yeah.
There was a lot of precision jumping in that game, and it was something that I think it was very much a product of practice, because I did play those games that was my only game back in the day. So
yeah, in the same way that like the Sonic 3D Burst is like super freaking difficult to jump.
Yeah,
but back in the day we had the time.
Yeah, you played it enough that it just started to feel natural.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the Switch, there's a game that I bought this game for myself because while I was doing Christmas shopping, I was like, oh look, because it knew I was looking at video game stuff. It popped up with Civilization 6 for the Switch.
Oof.
And it was on sale for like $5, so I was like, fuck it, I'll grab it.
$5, hell yeah.
Um,
I think Stefan didn't like Civ 6.
I yeah, I don't know. It honestly, it's the perfect game for the Switch. I'm finding
Yeah,
because it's turn based and it's something I can just pick up and put down. Like when the Switch is in mobile mode,
right.
so there's a lot of stuff going on the screen. So you do kind of have to zoom in, and if you don't have the best eyesight, then it probably wouldn't be ideal. But that's not me.
Yeah. I mean, I had Civ 4 for the PS3, and that I did really enjoy that. That was a really good thing.
it
Game.
it works well for the mobile format of the Switch because I brought my Switch home with me over Christmas, and just like this morning I woke up at 4:30, so I was up before either of my parents, and I was like, I don't want to get out of bed just yet. So I grabbed the Switch and I played for a few turns on the game that I have running, and then just put it down and got up and started my day. I did the same thing before
A few turns
bed.
being about an hour.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like it suits it well, but maybe that's just me.
Well, speaking of Civ, should we talk about the
Mm.
game that we played?
Yeah, the game we played for we honestly, what was it, Christmas Eve? We played for like 6 hours, and it was one game.
Yep.
Yeah,
They didn't normally get long. It's because we had the biggest map size on.
yeah. So there was a lot more units in play. Yeah, the game Polytopia, which was also part of that bundle that you
The
got.
battle for Polytopia. Yeah.
A battle for Polytopia. Sorry.
Yeah, I always forget it as well. It's just in case people try to look it up. It begins with V.
Yeah, that was why I had trouble finding it.
Yeah, really good game, but I think you got maybe a little frustrated with it.
My problem with the game is the ending, right? So for instance, it seems like a game. I've found out that it was a mobile game first from my cousins. That it started off as a mobile game and then I guess came to PC, and that really shows in the way the game functions. Because it seems like a game that you would, because it is turn based. You would pick up and put down. Like you would pick up and like, oh, it's my turn, and you'd make some moves, and then you put the game down. And then when your opponent sees it's their turn, oh, they pick it up, they make some moves, they put the game down. And that does show in the way the game is structured, in their just the way that the turns go. There's a lot of little things to fiddle with on your turn, and then a lot of waiting time in between turns. I'm fine with that. The problem I had was in the end game. So if it came down to just Blue and I, Blue had the significantly bigger empire, bigger army. I had more well-trained units, but he had more of them, and it just wasn't going to be a win. So I did what I would have wanted to do in StarCraft, which is if it's a one-on-one game, or if you're in chess and you see that the game is lost and you want to concede, you cannot resign in the game. So if I quit, all that happens is then now Blue is fighting a bot. And I was annoyed by this. Well, I was like, if that's the case, I'd rather be there for the rest of the game and see it through to the end. The game doesn't let you rejoin after you've done that. So there's a resign button, but it doesn't actually let you resign. It just replaces you with a bot, so your opponent still has to keep playing. That annoyed me profusely, and again, I think that's part of its mobile game heritage. Because on a mobile game, that sort of thing probably would be a little bit more acceptable. I realize we haven't talked about the gameplay itself at all. It's similar to Civilization, where you're building up like cities and towns and getting little soldiers to go out and find resources and collecting them and building
And
your
also,
cities up.
I will say that in Civilization they do the same thing where if you resign, then it gives your cities the bot. Like Civilization does the same thing.
Yeah, so maybe it's just me with my old-fashioned sensibilities, my StarCraft player's sense of honor and duty.
You're old frickin' man.
Back in my day, when I quit, I was done with the game.
But yeah, one of the things that we were showcasing by playing that game was how broken the DLC armies are. And,
Oh yeah.
oh boy, are they broken.
Oh yeah. They
sorry.
they were, yeah. So there are 3 of them, right?
There's 3 of them, yeah. And I will say, I did, in true competitive nature, I did kind of, as I was going across the land destroying the enemy I was preparing all the time for my battle with you, because I knew you'd be the greatest threat.
Yeah.
So I was getting out a lot of, what are they called? Cultist boys.
Yeah, the ice robe people with the antlers.
Yeah. A lot of them, and also I knew you'd have dragons, so tanks would be very ideal to deal with the dragons.
Yeah.
Um,
So, point being that the game does have a lot of. It's like a soft version of the Civilization games, where there's still a level of strategy to it, but it's much more along the vein of easy to learn, hard to master, whereas Civilization is potentially hard to learn, hard to master, because there's a lot of nuance in that. There's all these technologies and different resources and landscapes and political systems that you can put in play. There's a lot to it. This game is much more streamlined, where you've just got a few things you can do, a basic tech tree. There are certain resources that are unique to everyone. The DLC races do kind of throw things really out of whack, but overall,
because they have a completely different tech tree from every other race.
Yeah, exactly, and they can do weird things. Like the DLC race I was playing is able to turn, like most races, if there's a whale in the water, you can harvest it for resources if you have the proper technology. For me, it was I turned them into unstoppable seaborne juggernauts.
Battle whale.
I can make battle whales, which amused me to no end. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game, and despite my frustration at the ending, I felt very screwed out of the like seeing the proper end to the game. But despite that, the gameplay itself is a lot of fun, but it will take you quite a while. I recommend if you play it in bits, like to play it like you would play like a long-term chess game online, or like you would play a game of like solitaire on like Scrabble on like a mobile app.
Yeah, I mean, so that game took 60 turns. The like average for like a 1v1v1 maybe is about 15 turns, I'd say. So it can easily be under an hour a game. If you do go, biggest map with, I think there was 4 AIs plus us, so that's six armies.
Yeah.
That went up to 6 hours, like I said. So yeah. Shall I move on to another game, or?
Yeah, we've got a little bit more time left. I mean, let's talk about one more thing, and then we can kind of wrap up this segment.
Okay, the last, probably the most different kind of game I've been playing is... there's a few. So, pardon me. I've been playing a game called Shoppy Keep. That's like shop in an old-fashioned way of saying shop.
Yeah, like with an E in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, SHOPPE.
Yeah.
And it's basically you play as a kind of like an adventurer who's done his time out adventuring, and now he's just retired. He's got a shop, and you sell things to people going back and forth. So you sell like armor, weapons, depending on the kind of people that come in, whether they're mages, rogues, or warriors. They want different things. And you can kind of see what's popular at one time, so it might sell for more. You can change the price markups.
So there's actually quite a few games like that. I mean, in a similar vein, like this shop management thing. Moonlighter is one I can think of, but go on.
Yes, this is in first person, and Moonlighter is like a third-person pixel game.
Yeah.
If someone tries to like steal from you, you can like zap them with electric before they escape. And yeah, I mean, you slowly get better items you can sell. You can have a little garden. You can get a bar attached to it. There's perk trees and everything.
Did Let's Game It Out play this game? Because it sounds really familiar. I think I've seen him play a similar like first person like shopkeeper game before.
They may well have. It's quite popular.
Yeah.
And
should point out Let's Game It Out being a gaming YouTube channel, an agent of chaos as you've described him.
Yes, that is exactly what he is. It's just a very chill game. So like after you've played your Counter-Strike or something and you're like angry at Russians, you just go on this and sell potions of mana for a bit.
It's a nice unwindy game.
Exactly. I wouldn't recommend playing. Like, don't get me wrong, you do kind of end up getting dragged into it and playing for hours on end, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just a very chill, popping on, gonna do one day of it, so that takes about like 20 minutes. Yeah.
That's kind of why I liked, what was it? Talos Principle. The Talos Principle. It was like a puzzle solving game, and that was my like calm, relaxing game because I'd play that on like Sunday mornings. And I'd just get up, play it for a few hours, and just solve some puzzles. There was like kind of just a calm, relaxed, chill atmosphere to the whole thing.
Yeah, there's no like inherent rush to the game. Like if they steal like half the items in your shop, then it's not really the end of the world. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, there was one that something reminded me of. There was something I was just thinking about.
What game?
No, it wasn't a game because we have a little bit more time in this segment, and for that reason, I wanted to bring up one. Have you seen the Godfather movies?
Yes.
Okay. So, the other thing that I saw over Christmas was the Godfather 2. My dad had it on.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm?
Go on.
Yeah. So, he had it on. I'd seen probably the first maybe 2/3 to a half of the movie.
Right.
But I hadn't seen the ending. So, we watched it the whole way through, and it struck me again. Like just there's so much subtlety in that movie, little things that you kind of pick up or that are implied. I don't know. The reason I bring it up, and I'm struggling to think of a modern movie because in TV shows, like a lot of modern TV shows are honestly getting better than movies now. But I'm trying to think of a modern movie that actually has that same kind of level of subtlety in terms of their storytelling. Like what I'm thinking is, like there are scenes in the movie where, Michael, the main guy, in the Godfather 2, the son that's kind of taken over the Corleone family.
Wait, I thought Godfather 2 was the one where it was the young Don Corleone.
That's in it too. So it flashes backwards and forwards.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the modern times, it's Michael Corleone with the family, and then it flashes back to the father, the Godfather, the previous guy, when he was younger and when he first came to the U.S. and how he first kind of made his big break and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not articulating this very well, but I feel like the movie does have quite a bit of depth in terms of how they're conveying the story, and they leave a lot up to the viewer's imagination. Like at the end of the movie, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, big spoilers.
It's a bit of an old film, Kaiser.
Well, still, I like to say because it's a film that I still would recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend the first one, kind of the second one, not really.
Yeah, the first one is an absolute must see, I will say. But
it is. It's really...
the second one is also very good. I haven't seen the third one, but I've heard that it isn't quite as good as the other two.
Yeah, it iffy.
Yeah. So just my point is, at the end of the second movie, Michael Corleone has he's alienated quite a few people. He's seeing enemies everywhere. He's killed family. Like in the first movie, it was sort of their family versus their rivals and the people who wanted to take him down. In the second movie, it's more like internal conflict. And at the end of the movie, he's had to do some, well, not even had to. He's done and ordered some pretty horrible things. He's essentially really ripped apart his family, just to make sure that the enemies have been expunged. And the movie ends on him just sitting there and contemplating, he's just looking off, and there's a lot of ambiguity to that, and it's kind of left up to the viewer's imagination what he's thinking. Does he feel oh shit, is he satisfied, did he go, or is he somebody who's sitting amongst the ashes after they've burnt something down?
He's thinking, should I make a third film?
Yes, that's exactly what he's thinking. And as we maybe know, he made the wrong decision.
Exactly.
Anyway, just on that complete.
Was Jar Jar Binks a good character?
Okay, no, I need to have a little bit of a rant about that, because are you familiar with the Darth Jar Jar theory?
Okay. Guys, we have right. I threw it in there because it was a stupid thing that he could be thinking of. Second of all, we have had this rant multiple times on the podcast.
Have we actually talked about it on the podcast?
Yes, we absolutely have. We both love Jar Jar Binks. You love the idea he's a Sith Lord working behind the scenes to manipulate the Force.
Okay. I think that's just such a good fan theory. Okay.
Yes. I'm
sorry, it must have been on an earlier, a really early podcast, because I do not remember talking about it at all.
It was about 5 podcasts ago.
It can't have been that recently.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
All right.
Go
on. Well, our viewers could tell us. Am I losing my memory, or is Blue losing his? Either way, I think that's where we can end segment 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This is the end of the second segment of the TMCJ podcast. We'll be back soon with segment 3, which this time we're going to be talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions in general, since this podcast is being recorded just before New Year's and will be released just after. So look forward to that. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Welcome back to the TMCJ Podcast. We are now on segment 3, our wildcard segment. And considering, as I said at the end of the previous segment, that we're recording this just before the New Year's, and this will be released just after New Year's, I thought, well, we talked about this. We thought that talking about New Year's resolutions would be a good thing to have in this segment. Now, opening up to begin with, I thought we'd chat a little bit about the kind of the concept in general. I honestly don't know where the idea comes from. I probably should have looked that up. That seems like a random piece of trivia that I would normally have to hand, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know where they actually even came from, the idea of it?
I don't know. Probably. Well, I mean, I can extrapolate, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
I assume, being as it's kind of the new year, it's a new start for everybody. And people always look back on the last year, and generally it's not often that people look back on a year and think, man, that was a really good year. Obviously this year's been particularly bad, but so I think everyone tries to make themselves, and by extension the rest of the world, a little bit better for the next year.
So while you were saying that, I did just quickly look it up on my phone, and I mean, based on what you just said, it does. And
you're completely fucking wrong.
No. I think you hit the nail perfectly on the head. It's something that is just so obvious and ubiquitous. It's been around for quite some time. It's actually credited to the Babylonians 4,000 years ago. So
what good babbies.
There's at least it's credited in that there's evidence that they were making New Year's resolutions in the Babylonian Empire. So that's interesting that it's that old. But yeah.
I think there is a certain art to making a New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
It's absolutely a good thing to aim high. But I think it's also equally important to do something that is in fact manageable. Because there is nothing worse than setting a goal for yourself and then not being able to achieve it.
Right, because most people... I remember hearing somewhere that most people have dropped them by mid-February.
Exactly. If you're going to do a getting fit kind of thing, then say, I'll do, 5 press-ups every day. Don't do something crazy. You can do more than that, but the resolution should be 5 a day for 3 months, whatever it is.
Yeah. Or the resolution shouldn't be I want to get 6-pack abs. It should be, well, I'm going to work out at least 3 times a week.
Yeah. Let's try and get 2-pack, and then
wasn't 2-pack a rapper?
I think he was.
That's Tupac.
Tupac. Yeah. I don't really know.
No, but yeah, set a resolution. You might have in your head you want to get really fit or something like that. So don't say I'm going to get really fit and just leave it vague. Say I'm not even 3 times. Say I'm going to work out and do a good workout at least twice a week. Something super manageable, and you can do more than that if you want. It's
not some binding legal document. So it's something for yourself and yourself only, really. Don't get anxious because of it. Part of one of the great things about it is that it is something that's achievable, and so you do get that happiness when you do finally complete it, and kind of self-worth, really.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you're not doing it for someone else. You're not doing it to look good in someone else's eyes, necessarily. It's just about making yourself a little bit happier for the new year, which, given how January and February are always miserable, I'm sorry for birthdays in January or February, it's kind of a nice pick-me-up.
I don't really have
As would be your birthday.
With January.
It's just freezing, and I hate the cold.
Gotcha.
And it rains a lot. There's no light.
Oh, right.
I'm a big summer person.
Yeah, it rains a lot there. Here we get some blizzards.
Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay, I can see. They said the same thing. The college I went to divided our... We didn't do semesters, we did terms. So there were 4 terms in a year instead of 2 semesters.
Yeah. And
there was one term that went from January to early March, I think it was. And yeah, that was always everyone around campus was always oh yeah, this is the depressing one. This is where people start to fail classes and stuff because everyone's miserable. I didn't really mind it that much because I am a cold weather person.
Yeah,
that's my time of year.
In my experience, the time when everyone drops out is right at the beginning of the year. In the first month of starting a new course, that's when 40% of people are just okay, I clearly cannot... Because they lay it on thick at the beginning of the year, I feel to kind of, I don't want to say weed out, but so that people know if it's not for them, you want to drop out now. You don't want to drop out, 3/4 of the way through the year, where you know a whole bunch of stuff, and you've spent all this money on the course, but you're not going to get anything from it because you don't enjoy it.
Yeah, and that was something... It was something that it wouldn't be the first month at the school I went to. It would be the first week or two because the courses were only 7 weeks long.
Okay.
The terms were... It was, like I said, I've said previously, it was an engineering college, and the way that their teaching style was to teach you how to learn very quickly. So if you couldn't, you instead of having 6 courses over 4 months or 5 months, you had 3 courses over 7 weeks. And it was meant to just help you focus in really hard on the material for like one course and really get you to take all of that information in and learn it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I really liked that style. I found it a lot of fun. Anyway, we're not talking about New Year's resolutions anymore. How did we get here? There's a lesson for you. That's something that can help you with your New Year's resolution. That's a lesson on staying focused.
Right, man, maybe that's what the cumulative podcast one should be. To stay on topic more. What is happening with my audio?
I don't know. I get feedback. People kind of like it when we ramble a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, then, forget what I just said.
But you're right though. Like a lot of you got to set manageable. That's just good life advice in general, though. Is good goals management. The whole reason this podcast is still going is like when we started it, we didn't go like, okay, our goal is to have like, 1,000 subscribers in like, 8 months. And
no.
We didn't want to have like, it wasn't going to be like regimented. It was like, let's take it slow. We did a few test cases, then we did a full one. Then we let it evolve and grow naturally.
Yeah.
And I think that that's made it more of a positive experience and one that's still going rather than a stressful one.
Yeah, it's been super chill. I say super chill. We have put work and time into it, but
doesn't feel like work.
We put time into it. When we get to when an episode goes out, and we're always kind of like, it's always nice to see how many whether people have tuned in to listen to it. But even in the early days when we were getting like 2 views if we were lucky on YouTube, I mean, to be fair, on YouTube we still don't get too many views.
Yeah, but
we're still on other platforms
and stuff.
But it's just like, well, we enjoy it so much that it doesn't matter anyway. If it ever became a thing where we didn't enjoy making them, it probably wouldn't be a thing.
Well, and that. I think to bring it back to New Year's resolutions, I think that's another good point to be made there. Like the New Year's resolution should be something that you're doing to improve yourself, right? So like, if it gets to the point where you're stressing out because you're like, I'm not going to keep this resolution. Oh, it's so hard to keep this. Then don't do it. Like it's you need to like pick something. So like the fitness one earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to like be healthy and stay in shape, like that's why you just say I'm going to work out. And you find workouts and things that are like good for you. Or to take it away from workouts, the New Year's resolution I had for this year, and I tried to set a manageable one. So previously, I learned Spanish at a young age because my hometown was half Hispanic. And so they taught us Spanish all the way up from like first grade. And so like my Spanish is still pretty good. I need a little bit of practice whenever I'm trying to strike up a conversation. But I find that I can talk to people in Spanish manageably well. I sound horrible because my grammar and vocabulary is that of a 2-year-old. But I can still do it. So and I also have some experience with German because I learned that in college. But that isn't nearly as good. So my resolution at the beginning of this year was I wanted to practice one of those 2 languages throughout the year, and by the end of the year, be able to read like a full story in Spanish without the need to look up and translate things or something like that. And so that's
quite a hard goal, I will say.
Sorry?
I would categorize that as like on the harder end.
Right.
Of resolutions.
The reason I said I thought of this as a more manageable one is because I've learned Spanish previously. It's still in my mind. I can say basic phrases and stuff like that. So I really just needed to expand my vocabulary, get some practice reading, and
recap.
Yeah, exactly. But the biggest weakness was expanding my vocabulary because that was what was the poorest. So I got like language apps. I have Rosetta Stone and I have Duolingo, which is the free one. I practiced it off and on throughout the year, and by, I think it was mid-October, I was able to read like a full short story in Spanish, and I was able. It was a short story meant for like, I think like older children or like younger teens. So
right, I think I remember you showed it to me. I think.
Yeah, not like super advanced Spanish, but I set a manageable goal, one that I knew I would be able to meet even if I had setbacks throughout the year, because work did ramp up and there were times where I didn't have time to practice. But by not even by the end of the year, but by October I was able to do it. So that's the thing, is like setting, like knowing your own abilities, doing something that you enjoy, because I really enjoy learning languages. So those are like the two key tenets that we've come across so far. Set manageable goals that will still kind of get you to where you want to be, and have it be a positive thing. Have it be something that you enjoy. And you do get
that kind of makes me think of, I obviously used to play guitar a lot, and I've had to give it up with all the work I was doing. I could pick that up. But I don't know, I don't have too much room where I'm living at the moment. So I don't know. I thought I should. I'm slightly struggling to work out what I would have for this year. I'm also thinking about the German again now.
Yeah, because you've been trying to pick up German.
Yeah, I did. Quite intense for like a month, and then again it kind of started slipping. But I have no excuse for that, so maybe that is something I should come back and do, because I did enjoy it. I just kind of forgot somewhat about it. Yeah,
and there's something that there was a piece of advice that I got like quite a while back when I used to do CrossFit. This was years ago, probably 2012-ish. I would not recommend CrossFit, especially if you're out of shape. I was in pretty good shape at the time, and doing that, like, it was like a boot camp sort of thing. I was in the best shape of my life after I finished it. It was extremely expensive, which is why I stopped. But there was one good, and it feels a little cultish. I don't know. You're not meant to do, piece of workout advice. The human body is not meant to do Olympic-style lifts in rapid succession. Like, they're meant to be like one-off things that you do to showcase how, like, the kind of shape you're in. Doing them in rapid succession can cause some serious damage. Little caveat there. But anyway, the one good piece of advice they gave was, if you're feeling under the weather, if you're not feeling good, you're super busy, you don't have time, but it's a day that you would normally do a workout, do something. It doesn't have to be your normal workout. So say normally you run a mile and lift weights for a little bit and then do some sit-ups. Say that's your normal workout. You don't have time because you've got work, you've got family problems, you're sick, you've got stuff to do around the house. Just do something. Do like 5 push-ups, right? And then call it a day. Just to keep... What that does from a psychological perspective is you're not trapping yourself into this idea that I don't have time. If I can't do it, I should just do the whole thing or nothing at all. What it does is you're still keeping to it. You don't have time, so you've reduced your workout, but in your mind, you're still keeping to that routine. And I find that if I stop working out altogether because I don't have time, and because I don't have time to do a full workout, I'm more likely to just throw the schedule out the window for a whole week. Whereas if I do a little bit of something, then if I have time later in the week, I'll continue and I'll do a more expansive workout. And I feel like it's repetition. It's repetition and routine. Like, that's another way to keep these... We keep going back to workouts, I'm realizing.
Yeah, it's because workouts tend to be what people do for
New Year's resolutions.
For New Year's resolutions. I don't know if you remember, I used to do running a lot in the mornings. That's another thing I could go back to. God, there's so many things.
I remember we were using the same app to track it for a while.
Yeah, Strava. And I'm the kind of person, I'm I'm a massive hypocrite, right? Every time I go out and I do a run, I'll be like, right, I went this far today. Tomorrow I've got to do that 0.1, like that and a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so I would kind of start like, it was quite a brutal regime. It definitely made me, over the course of like a week, I doubled the distance I could run. And after like 3 weeks, I was in really good shape. And then I kind of hit a wall where I was like, a definite a point where I was trying to go even further, but like,
but you hit
my body wasn't quite ready for it yet.
Speaking of like, you know, running and workouts in general, there is a point of diminishing returns. Like you can like at the beginning when you're only running like a mile or two, increasing it by 0.1 every time you go for a run, that's manageable. When you start getting into like the really long distances, like the 6, 7, 8, 9 mile range, unless you're going for like a marathon time, if you're trying to stay fit, then you're actually going to be it's kind of going to be to your detriment, especially if you're trying to build up any sort of muscle mass, because your body's going to be burning so many calories that the running is actually detrimental.
Yeah, I quite liked having like you on the app because you're definitely better than me, but you weren't like out of my league. So the reason I got the app and started doing it in the first place was because I was talking to my dad about it. My dad has been doing like park runs and things for a few years now, I think. And I'd kind of I'd completed mine and I was like, holy moly, I did really well this time. I ran for, I don't know, 3 miles without stopping, whatever. And then I look at the app and it'll be like, oh, Dad has run for 15 miles today. I'm like, oh my god, what? It's just like so fun. He's like, it's my dad. He's like going great. Sorry, Dad. I love you lots. He's like freaking Usain Bolt, and I'm like a fat kid in school.
Well, that's not. So I have a cousin and an uncle. They do like those crazy like desert marathons where they're like they run through Arizona when it's like 108 degrees out, and they're running for like 20 something miles.
Oh god!
And they can do it, and they do. I'm just like, holy! I am not a marathon runner.
How's that possible? Yeah. And I'm like, well, they must like take breaks and like stop to breathe every so often. I just keep running no matter what. That's kind of if I stop, as far as I'm concerned, that's me out.
Oh yeah, I'm the exact same way.
But I don't think they even do, because I've spoken to them and they're like, yeah, no, I don't do that. But it's just they've been doing it for years, I think, and so I guess eventually you do get to that point. So maybe my New Year's resolution, because I'm more inclined to get back into that, because I remember when I was doing it, there were people around me and they were like, after you've done these runs, you have been just more positive. You've been a happier person for doing these runs. So I think it's good for me. I should get back to it, but I should stop. I shouldn't make it quite such.
Such a brutal regime. I think.
Yeah.
Like, so me, I took basically the entire month of November. I didn't run. And I started getting back into it in December. I bought like cold weather running gear, and I've been doing fairly well about running at least like once a week. Again, it's one of those manageable things. I'm trying to just ease myself back into my old regime. I'm like, I'll go for like at least 2 miles, and I will try to keep up like a decent pace, and just to get my body used to it again. Because taking a month off, it takes a while to get you back into it.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that pretty well. If it wasn't for the ice, I'd be hitting like 9-minute miles on them. But the hard thing for me, I'm finding, is my legs didn't lose too much in terms of anything, but it was my breathing. Like, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I had asthma as a child, and so I've always had fairly weak lungs. So unless I keep up the workouts, then I tend to get worse in that regard.
Yeah, that's something I found. The first few times I went running, I would like gasping for air after a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
After the first week, um, again, my breathing improved greatly.
Part of
And
it,
then when I stopped doing it for a month and tried it again, it went back to, very rough.
part of this is that the human body is incredibly lazy. So if you run for quite a bit of time and you have that like that shortness of breath, then the body will be triggered to start producing more red blood cells. So the same air is giving you more oxygen to more places. And you don't need as much. You don't need a big gasping breath because your body has enough red blood cells that absorbs enough oxygen just from like a normal breath. It's why one of the good measures they use when you're running is if you can hold a conversation while you're running, that's a good sign. Like if you're keeping up a decent jogging pace and you're able to talk on the phone or chat with somebody that you're running with, that's a pretty good sign that you're actually in decent shape because you have enough air to do both.
Yeah.
You're not gasping.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to bring this back to the topic we originally opened
I
up
think
with.
we are on topic. But yeah, go on.
This has become the fitness segment.
Well, it's become the self-improvement segment.
Which I think it is
It's on brand.
It's the purpose of a New Year's resolution, is self-improvement, I think.
Yeah.
But that being...
But yes, absolutely, it doesn't have to be physical. Like, you could, just be wanting to improve your social skills or something. And I think that's a really good...
And that's what I was about to ask, is can you recall or think of any... what was it? Any instances you've heard of people doing, like, non-fitness related... self-improvement things. Non-fitness or non-health.
Okay, I was going to say there's certainly a lot of people who are like, I want to stop drinking or smoking.
Oh, right, yeah. That's the reason I'm thinking, like, I've heard those same things too.
And I think they are a very good thing, if you can do them.
Yeah, they're good. And, like, but again, I think that people go overboard with them.
Yeah.
Like, say, I don't know, say you are drinking way too much. Don't go, I'm going to stop drinking. Go like I'm gonna drink like X amount less per week or something. I
did do that, but it wasn't something where I was like, 1 second I'm fine with it, and the next I was like, I'm just gonna completely stop drinking. It was at the end of a long stream of drinking, and I'd been like, look, this is really bad. It's costing a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I did cold turkey and I stopped drinking, and it was really rough. And now I can happily have a drink. I can even have a lot of drinks on one time, and then for the next week or so I'm just like, nope, I'm not drinking anything.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I think that's one of the prime benefits of. I did Sober October with.
Yes, I remember.
And I feel like it's healthy to do that every now and again. Not only with alcohol is the one that people focus on with stuff like that, but with anything. Like if you have fast food too often, take a month where you give up going out to eat and just instead you are going to cook for yourself and you're going to cook healthy food. Like I feel like you come out on the other side better because you're essentially temporarily breaking a habit. And once you do that, even if you go back to doing whatever the behavior was, it's not gonna be as bad. So like, for instance, I'm gonna use fast food as an example. Say you're eating out at like McDonald's like 4 days a week, right?
Right.
You take a month and you're like, I'm not gonna have any fast food for this whole month.
Yeah.
And so at the end of it, maybe you go back and have it again, but now that you're not used to it, it isn't part of your normal routine. Suddenly, maybe you are only having it like once every 2 weeks or something like that. It's not as much of a routine, as much of a craving.
Yeah, and I think one of the main litmus tests for that kind of thing, whether that has worked, is when you get to the end of those periods where you're completely trying to avoid something, there are people that say, "Oh, thank God that's over. Now I can drink or eat."
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And that the goal of it is not to stop yourself doing the thing, it's to change your mindset so that you don't want to do that thing.
Exactly. And that's one of the things, like, if you know, the whole New Year's resolution, stopping smoking was one in there. I think that rather than saying, I'm just going to quit cold turkey, some people cold turkey works. My dad used to smoke all the time, and he did. He quit cold turkey, and he never went back.
Normally because of family, yeah.
Never went, like, and some people can do that. They have the willpower and the resolve to just say, nope, I'm done. But other people, like, if you're not confident you will be able to, or you're worried that, you know, you'll hold off for a little bit and then do exactly what you just said, which is come back on the other side and go, like, I'm going to smoke 18 packs of cigarettes. It might be better to just do a New Year's resolution. Like, I'm smoking, like, you know, I don't know, 2 packs. I don't know. I don't smoke, but I'm smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a week, right? So I'm going to try to get that down to 1. That's your resolution for the year. Get it down to 1. And maybe you get down to 1 and you feel like, I can get this down even lower, and you can. But the resolution should be reasonable in that you're just trying to cut back and be more responsible. Maybe smoking's a bad example, but that's what I'm thinking is along those. Going back to the original, it's about setting reasonable goals.
Yeah. And yeah, we have been talking an awful lot about health, and it's quite a deep subject. I also kind of want to read a bit more, because, I mean, I don't have the space in my room to hold many books, but it's been so long since I've gone Audible, and that, you know, those sexy dinosaurs aren't going anywhere.
That is an episode.
Does that need clarification or not? I don't think it does.
That is an episode that has been promised for quite some time that we still haven't done.
Yeah.
But no, I think that is another good one. I actually did a resolution one year. Oh, excuse me. I got the hiccups all of a sudden. I had a resolution one year where I wanted to finish more things. So typically I do read quite a bit. I play quite a few video games. I pick up quite a few projects and then fiddle with them for a while and then drop them. So I did a resolution to try and commit to finishing the things that I'm starting. So, like, if I start a TV show, even if it loses me, I'm going to finish it. Like, assuming this TV show is already over and not ongoing. If I pick up a book, even if it starts to kind of lose me in places, before I pick up another book, I'm going to finish it. Same thing with a video game. Like, I pick up this video game, I'm having some fun with it, but then, another video game comes out and I want to play that. No, I have to finish the other one first. And so that was one resolution that, you know, non-fitness related thing that I tried, and I actually found myself feeling a lot more satisfied having finished the things, rather than, because you don't get as much satisfaction when you pick something up, you know, fiddle with it for a bit and then drop it.
Yeah, and also I think it's good to get, if there's someone else who's doing a resolution that you know, getting each other, like, amped up to doing it is a really good and fun just way of doing things. I know I've certainly after this podcast, I definitely feel like going out and, like, just running now.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be lifting some weights after this.
Yeah. So if there's someone else that you know, absolutely, like, share that kind of stuff with them and try and help each other with your resolutions, because it can be tough, and just that extra little bit of support can really do it.
Right. There are people out there who can entirely motivate themselves. Like, they once they make a promise to themselves, they're going to fulfill it. But I feel like those people are in the minority. Like, but exactly what you said. If you make a resolution with somebody else and you're like, hey, you know, you and I, we're going to go to the gym 3 days a week, you know, for the next 3 months, and we're really going to get fit. And you feel like you're letting somebody else down when you don't keep to that kind of commitment. And I feel like that does maybe that's putting it. Yeah, it's motivation. Maybe that's putting a bit of a negative spin on it. But what I mean is like it's a support thing. Like people, we're social animals. Like you need to have, or not, you don't need to have it, but it does help when you're trying to accomplish something like that with somebody else. And I feel personally like you get a lot more satisfaction when both of you cross the finish line and you're like, we both set out and accomplished this goal.
Yeah. Just gonna really get amped to read The Hobbit. Yeah!
I did the audiobook.
Bilbo Baggins! Sorry.
I have read The Hobbit. Not read it. I did an audiobook.
I have actually read the book of it, but yeah, that's beside the point.
Well, there was another thing. So recently, I haven't talked about it on the podcast because there's a book club discussion, and I know the person who asked me to read the book listens to this, so I didn't want to talk about it on here. But after that discussion, I will be talking about that on the podcast.
Okay, yeah, and that's gonna be next week, right?
Probably next week, yeah. But I finally finished the book. But point being, this probably wouldn't have been a book that I read or would have cared to finish beyond like the first 5 pages had I not had somebody else who was expecting me to finish and wanted to discuss it with me.
Yeah, and was it worth it?
It was, actually, because the book, like, it gets off to a very slow boil. But even the first, like, once you get past the first chapter, it really picks up and gets interesting. The ending can be a bit contentious, to say the least, but the rest of the book, like, it was definitely worth reading, and I found myself very interested and engaged with all of the characters and the story in general. Another example of that. Like, you're right though. Having somebody else there to kind of keep you on point.
Yeah.
Case in point, if this podcast was just me solo, it probably wouldn't have been going this long.
Well, so what do I think? Well, good point, me.
There are solo podcasts out there where people just kind of rant and rave about whatever topic has to be at mind.
Really? Oh, that sounds tough.
Yeah. No, they're out there. Well, okay, so we are actually coming near the end of this thing. Any final thoughts? Do we want to talk about? Have you considered anything that you're thinking of doing as a New Year's resolution?
I think, after these discussions, because like I said earlier, there's a lot of things I could do and I'm kind of unsure about. But honestly, I'm feeling like running now, and I feel like it's something I could sustain. So I'm gonna set. Alright, I don't want to set it too high, as we said, but also something that is actually going to like get me out of the house.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say like at least minimum mile run a day, with exceptions to like, family crisis.
Well, you going for like an average of one a day? So if you run like 3 miles on Monday, you can take 2.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. If I do end up missing out on, I'm going to try and do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But if if I do have to miss one, then I'll run 2 on another day.
Yeah.
Because I do spend too much time in the house, and just getting out in the fresh air will do me good. Plus, obviously, exercise will always do you good.
Yeah, I got to think about this for myself. I haven't actually. So this year, like I said, I had more of a mental, intellectual kind of resolution.
Right.
But going into next year, I feel like, again, maybe it's because we talked about so much physical stuff. I might be doing something similar, like making a resolution to ensure that I have a certain. I don't want to do a minimum number of workouts a week because I do actually work out pretty much every day of the week anyway, to varying degrees. So I've got to put some more thought into mine. But the 2 things that are in my mind right now are some kind of a fitness one, similar to what you're talking about, to make sure I maintain this workout regime that I've developed during the quarantine. And then alternatively, I could continue on with my Spanish learning and make the resolution to try and be able to read a novel by the end of next year.
Tricky.
So I've done a short story this year. Maybe I can actually read an actual book next year if I keep going with it. So I've got some thought to put in, but those are what's on my mind.
And just relating more closely to home, I also I'm gonna try and put more time into keeping the TMCJ Podcast Twitter up to date, because it has been weeks since I've been on there. And I've been mean to, and I feel bad about it, but now I'm gonna at least get the weekly thing down, so that, you know, if you want a bit of information, a bit of I was gonna say spoiler, a bit of a cheeky peek at what will be happening at the end of the week, you can go over to Twitter and have a look at. I might drop a hint on what we talk about.
Yeah, it'll be there if you're one of these strange people that use Twitter.
Yes, strange people.
Oh man! All right, well let's end it there. That's kind of a good place to stop. So hopefully you guys, for when this comes out, it will be after New Year's. So hopefully you had a happy New Year, a happy and safe New Year. And hopefully you've come up with some decent resolutions, or if you haven't found them quite yet, hopefully we've helped you think of some. Either way, this is the end of episode 22 of the TMCJ Podcast. Thank you once again for listening to us, and hopefully you'll tune in again soon.
Hope you've had a very merry New Year.